All right. So I guess we'll just start while the others joining, because this is already 15 minutes extra to when our class was supposed to start. So this is our first day of the week, and then today is going to be the actual last day I will teach you guys. We've been on about UI design for about, let me say, 7 weeks. So this week is going to be our final week, and then today will be the last day of teaching, and then Friday and Saturday will be your assignment presentation. So we are just going to kind of review everything that we have learned throughout our 7 weeks, and then along the class, if you have any questions that you want to clarify on, or you have a feedback or anything, because I might not Friday and Saturday I might not really be able to speak much based on the presentation. So today is going to just be a day of rounding up and based on the teaching aspects. But before we get into the questions and feedback section, we are going to go through like what we have for today. So our design process, like right from the very start, where we started from the user research, and then we have a process. So the whole process of trying to actually design an application, and then you now finally have your final designs. Like you've gone through the process of doing your research, answering your questions, asking users questions, trying to put yourself in users' shoes, and then you've gotten your problem statements, you've kind of understand the kind of problem that you want to solve. And from that problem, you've gotten your ideas on how you want to solve that problem. So the next step is really to now design something. So at the point of design, design is not, like a process. It's like an iteration. So you can design something, you can finish up design today. Trust me, there will be instances in your career where you are finished designing something, and then you just get a feedback that the design is not good enough. Am I missing out on anything? Okay, that this design is not good enough, and then you would need to make changes. You need to make some changes based on your review. So it's not always a linear process. A linear process, I mean, the way you have your your empathize ideas, then your prototype, and your, like, the way you have that 5 steps in design processes. You don't always have to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can go from 1 to 2, and then go back to 1, and then go 1, 2, 3, and then go back to 1. So it's not a linear process. It's actually an iterative process. So there are different stages in your design that you might discover some things, and then it will require you to take a step back to the research. So there will not be a point where you now know that actually this design is good enough to be handed over to the developers. And then at this stage, you will want to know your deliverables. for you to know that, okay, your design is, your first phase or your final phase of design has been completed. Like you have completed the design of an application. And then there are various deliverables you would have to give to show that you have completed designing a mobile application. Just like the way we have for user research, for example, when you complete your user research, and then there are deliverables that requires you to show that you have completed your user research. And those deliverables could be user persona, or your user journey, or your community analysis. So those are different deliverables for user research. But for UI design, there are also deliverables to show that you have completed your UI designs. And that is what we are actually going to go through today. So before you can say that, yes, I have dotted on my I's and crossed all my T's in my design, you must at least have a few of these things or all of these things your um in your deliverable, that you have delivered, that you have completed a particular um design. So um okay, so how do you know that your design is complete? So you would want to check, like you must have created a checklist, or you must have like, if you work with project managers, for example, you must have written down the tasks that you need to must have achieved, or your deliverables for that design. So you must actually know the things that was supposed to have been done for you to cross-check and say that, okay, we have successfully done this in our design. So you make sure that your user needs are met. So from your problem statement, you have to go back to your problem statement to make sure that what you actually found out in your problem statement, does your design actually solve this problem? Because you might end up creating design where it's just out of it, like designing out of the blues. It's not solving anybody's problem. You are not even you're not addressing the issues that have been identified, and that is actually a very big problem. So you must check that, does this design actually solve your users' needs? And the only way for you to know if it has solved your users' needs is if you have actually identified this your user needs. So that's the essence of actually doing your research before designing. So you must make sure that your user needs are met. So your design solves the intended problem. Even if along the way, like out of your creativity, you are trying to solve A, and then realize that, okay, by solving A, you can also solve B. However, your final design must actually solve A, even if it will end up not solving just A. It can also end up solving A and B, but it must actually solve the intended problem. And then, if also along the line that, according to the constraints that you must have had, and then you have also identified a different problem, like from the intended problem that you had before. Even if when you create a new problem statement, you work also with that new problem statement, and you make sure that this your design will have actually solved your intended um problem. So that is just based on solving the user's problem. Then based on the UI, like we have also talked about creating, how we can create colors, our fonts, our icons, our what other UI elements we have, our images, our illustration, whatever UI elements you have. if at any point you are using um, blue, for example, as your background color, it shows that for all your whole application, you are actually still going to stick to that blue as your brand color. So you must make sure that there's a consistency throughout your app, because you don't want a user that will maybe see your first screen and then they have actually learned how your design is. They have understood, the things they're supposed to see and the pattern of your design. And then they now come to your screen 10 and they are seeing something entirely different. It's not going to create a good user experience. So you must make sure that there is actually consistency in the colors, in the use of fonts. So for fonts also, if you've chosen that you want to use Inter, for example, or if you want to use two fonts, you must make sure that that is the font that um, you're actually going to use all throughout the application. Then in cases where you want to use pictures, make sure that all through your application, you are going to use pictures. And then if you want to also throw in illustrations, make sure that your kind of illustrations are not something different from the other parts. So make sure that there's actually um, consistency in all through your design. Then the next step of also knowing that that your design is also complete is by doing a usability check. And by usability check, we've spoken about how to make sure that your color is readable. Like there's a website that um, I also showed you guys for you to check that the contrast, that your color contrast is high. So you can also check that the colors that you have chosen is readable, and then when you are using a text on a background, someone can easily identify that text and read that text. So like even if it's not color, there are also like for images, for example, developers used to have this I think alternative text to images, and then it is good for screen readers or for people who don't actually have high internet accessibility. So they can actually just, like when you're trying to put your image, you can put an alt for the developer, so that for people who are trying to load your website, for example, or your application, and then the image is not coming up very fast, they can get what that space is supposed to be from your alt message. And it also even helps for SEOs. So it's like for your hierarchy, if you're trying to design for a website, for example, the kind of content you put on that website is going to help search engine for you to bring up that website easier. Then also for usability also, like different users can access a website or application from different mobile device, from different devices. It could be from mobile phones, it could be from laptops, it could be from TV, even television. Just like we have our Netflix. You can use Netflix on TV, on your laptop, on your phone, on your tablet, and it's not going to actually change the experience. So it's still based on designing your application to be responsive, and a user that have changed a device, it should not actually change the experience. They should easily be able to navigate your website at every device that they actually use. Then your feedback incorporated. when you must have done maybe your first iteration of design, and then you want to test with your users, or you want to get feedback from your stakeholders or from your clients or from whoever you're designing for, and then they have given you their feedback. It's always very important for you that before you say that this design has been completed and you want to hand off to the developers, you must make sure that all this feedback that you have gotten has been putting in, you have made the adjustments on your final designs, and then you can now push to developers for developers to um, now pick up and see that they want to design. So that is where we now come to design handoff. So when you want to hand over your design, it's just like what example would I give now? Okay, let's say people that want to graduate from school, there's something that they do. Is this send forth or send forth? Yeah. So they're trying to hand you over to the public. So you are done with your university, and then you want to hand you over to um the public. So it's the same way of when you are done with your design, and then you want to hand off this design to the developers. You want to do it in a very proper way so that the developers is not always going to be calling you back to back. What do you mean when you design this? Or what is your what does this flow mean? Or like you'll be getting back to back calls and all of that. So you want to make sure that this your handoff is done as as done so properly, so developers can easily understand, and then this your design is actually implemented. Because I've encountered so many scenarios where I've done the design, and then the developers will think another thing, and they end up coding another thing. So it can be very, very frustrating because they are not implementing what you've designed, what you've spent weeks and months designing. And it might not be entirely their fault that they're not developing what you designed. Might be from the fault that you did not actually properly, I didn't properly hand off the design to them. And for you to hand the design off to them, you must actually um, do it to the best of your capability, and make sure that they are in sync with what you design. So what does the component of a successful handoff contain? So for there might be different ways you can design your application. Like me, um my way is I use user flows. Like the way we have our application, what application can I use now? Okay, let me just use WhatsApp that we all are so conversant with. And then we have WhatsApp. And for WhatsApp, we have a sign up. We have sign up. Okay, we have authentication. Like authentication, we have sign up, sign in, forget password, um, forget password, reset password, and all those things. So these are the flow for authentication. And then for send WhatsApp, we also have a flow for a user that wants to send the message. That is for messaging. Also, WhatsApp, you have a flow for user that want to check status, like by checking status, by just uploading status or by seeing status. So these are different flows that can exist in an application. And then it's possible that when you have designed this, your whole application, the developers might get lost in your flows or how you arrange different segments in your designs, because it's not possible for you to design everything to just be in one place. You must have like different categories of the screens, either by modules or by flows, or however you want to categorize your designs. So for the developers to easily understand how you have categorized this your designs, the best way you can do it is by using Figma comments. Or you can put like a short description on your Figma to show that this flow is for this, and on this place, make sure you do this. The user should do this. Just very, very brief comments, so that when they see it as they are working, they can easily understand what that design is for, and they can successfully implement it. So another way is by also using user directions. So I don't know if I even have this user direction. Like, is a plugin also. Forgotten the plugin. It's been a while I use it. There's a plugin that you can use for directing different, like connecting different screens to themselves. I've forgotten this plugin. Let me check my save plugin. Is it Flow or something? Is it Flow charts? No. I can't really remember the plugin, but there's something that there's a flow. The project I use this on is not my personal project. That's why I cannot open it. But it's really been a while I use the plugin. But what I was trying to explain is like the way we have different flows. Like you can direct from this particular place to this next thing. Like the way we have our prototype, for example. So prototype is also a good way to even hand over your designs to your developers, so that they can understand that when users click on this is a screen that is supposed to happen, and this is also what's supposed to happen. And then if it's even based on animations, if you can also animate your designs so that they can easily replicate or develop your designs, and not explaining your animation with your mouth. That's one advantage of learning animation in Figma, so that you can just easily show the developers what they need to do. Then for then for specs, so it's just like they just really have to start worrying about the spec, because Figma already have the ability. Once you bring in your developers to your Figma board, they can see the spec of a particular, like by spec I mean the property, like the way you have this. Let me click on this text. The way you have this text, for example, you can see that this text is 48, is font type is this, and this is this. And they can also switch from design mode to dev mode. So you can see on this bottom place that is dev mode. So when they switch on it, so they can see the spec or the properties of whatever they're trying to design. So you don't necessarily have to start worrying yourself about how to give them spec. The Figma has already has already helped you with that. Then another component of a successful handoff is by the interactive prototype that I spoke about. You know, it's like you might not successfully explain every single part to developers, like how it's going to click, or how where once a user click on it, this is where to click. But the best way for you to actually explain it is by using prototypes. So that when the developer does come and then click on this and then they are seeing this interaction, they have already easily understood that this is what they're actually supposed to demonstrate. So when you have also completed your design, it's also is a good add-on to add your interactive prototype so that your handoff is going to be very smooth and you don't have to worry about the regular calls and then they are calling you, please can you explain this flow? What do you design here? What is supposed to happen here? You know, all those calls could easily be avoided if you did a proper handoff. And also on collaboration, you know, just like I mentioned, like even within designers, you must have also added your fellow designers to the Figma board. That's why Figma is a very good tool to use in design because it allows real-time people to be able to comment on things that could be updated or ask questions and you're getting it real time. So it's also a very good thing if you add the developers to the Figma board. And then in cases where they are lost or where they are still having doubts, you can easily just comment you and call your name. What is this supposed to do on the Figma board? And then you just come and clarify it up. And then it makes the whole process very seamless and straightforward. So that is that about, you know, handing over your design to the developers. It's very, very essential that I will look into that part because, you know, our design does not end with us. That is just the very plain truth. So our design does not end with us. Even if we design a very fantastic and a very amazing design, people cannot use it in the world. It still has to be developed by developers. And then it's very essential for us to be able to collaborate effectively to make sure that your design that you have done is actually implemented properly. But that is even the skill every designer is supposed to have. If you go for job interview and then you are reading the job requirements, all the requirements is always effectively collaborating with developers for design implementation. So it is one thing to actually design something, and it's another thing to make sure that your design is implemented effectively. So that is also a very essential skill for designers. And trust me, it can be very, very taxing, especially when you don't, you know, start on time to start collaborating with the developers. And it will be very difficult for them to know what was in your mind when you're designing, and then you want to design to be like the way you designed. So even after when they have developed, like when they've actually like when you've handed over your design and then they have coded all the things that they want to code before it's even launched, before it's pushed to the public, you are supposed to even go to because they have like a better testing or a better app of any live application, or they call it staging. It's on staging. They're supposed to actually assess this application on their staging and make sure that what you designed, this somebody's mic is on. I can't see the person. Please mute your mic. So you want to make sure that what you've designed is actually um what they have implemented. So you go to that staging app. So it's not actually a live app. And then you go through all the design screens. You can even be with your Figma design by the side. So it could be like a mobile app. And then as you are trying to access the application like a user, you're making sure that where you placed your icon is where the developer placed the icon. Where the font size of what you use is the same font size that the developer used, and the colors that you use is actually the same. Yet you're not designing something and you are developing another thing. So it's also a very essential process too that you actually need to be very conversant of when you are actually um like trying to hand over your design. So when you are done designing, your work does not end. It still continue up to the point where it is finally launched. And even when it's finally launched, you would want to go through if your company already have a software that monitors user interactions real time on your application, either mobile application, you will want to always go to that software where you can see users interaction with your app. And then you also want to identify places where they must have gotten lost, or where they could not able to complete a task, or where there are more drop-offs, or where there are high success rates. So you want to always identify those loopholes or those success points. So your work as designer does not just end on designing anything you want to design on your Figma board. It still continues up to where you launch your application and even after you launch your application. So for every designer, just like we all have our journeys, like I've worked with several companies, and for these several companies, I've also designed several projects. I've designed like maybe less, not at least 10 projects. So each of these projects are like my portfolio. And then every designer is advised for every designer to actually have a portfolio. So as beginners in design, your portfolio is supposed to be at least say two to three strong projects. So for each project, you can create a case study for a project. So in design, we call it case study, but not project. So, but case study just means that it's a project, or it could be a feature on a project. So if you've actually maybe designed a new application, you can make a case study out of that project. Or if you've actually collaborated with someone to add some features in an already existing application, so you can also create a case study in that project. So what exactly the case study is? The case study is just for you to actually tell a story of how you went about your design for a particular project or for a particular feature. So, you know, our design process, there's a process to our design. Before you actually come to your Figma to start drawing your rectangles and coloring it, you must have gone through a process. So that's how important it is to actually, you know, start from the research phase to your ideation to your prototyping to everything before you actually come up with your final design. So a case study is just for you to showcase how this your journey is. And for every project, you must not use any particular steps. Say for project A, for example, you might decide that you want to conduct a questionnaire survey, for example. So if you choose a questionnaire survey for project A, Now you decide for project B that you want to use an interview survey. So what you did for project A might not be what you did for project B. That is why everybody out there will want to know your process, how you were able to come up with the designs. Did you just sit down on the table and then you just from your head start creating any designs that you feel like is deemed fit for whatever you want to design? So you so a case study is just you are trying to highlight um your design process. And then for every design process, you must have actually faced some challenges, or you must have some constraints. Just like when I was explaining our ideation process, I mentioned that when you finish generating your ideas, you might have constraints of your team's budget, or the timeline can also be a constraint, or your resources, your resources strength can also be a constraint, or your inability for you to actually have a physical contact with your intended user. So this can also be a constraint. So a case study will also highlight your challenges while you are trying to complete design of that project. And then it can also state like what you've learned from these challenges. You've learned that this is this, or you can also state like your next steps. What are your next steps after this first iteration? We want the second iteration to also contain this. So that is what a case study entails. And just like the same way design process is not cannot always be the same for every project. That also the same way your case study cannot also be the same for every project. So you can have a different case study for different projects. So different approach for different kind of projects. In fact, if you even have the same case study for all your projects, is also a red flag to your potential bosses or to your potential clients. So they want to see the ability for you to choose the best solution based on the aspect of the problem that you're trying to solve. So like I said, our portfolio, like as beginners, is supposed to have at least two to three projects. And I'm going to use TEFEM as an example. So this your assignment that you've worked on, you can also form a case study from it. This first assignment that you are submitting tomorrow, Friday and Saturday, you can form a case study, because I believe that you guys must have completed or must have gone through a design process, starting from the research to your ideation, to your, starting from your research to your empathizing, to your ideation, then to your final design. So that's a design process. So you can also form a case study from this your first assignment. Then a second case study can also come from your projects that you work in a general group. When you guys are done from like this product design small group classes, you are going to collaborate, you are going to join with people from other departments. It could be from front end, it could be from back end parts. So when you collaborate with those people, the project that you work on with those guys, with the rest of the team, can also be your second case study. So you can see that you can actually create your portfolio with just these two assignments that you've done. And for every case study, you don't just want to just come up with show your final designs. You must show your design process right from the very first stage to the end stage. So what does a case study contain. So a case study, first of all, could start from the background. So you can have a brief introduction of what this project is about, your intended users, what are your potential users, your market share, like a brief. They're trying to introduce like the general background. What's the purpose of this project? What are you even trying to solve? What aspect are you trying to solve? Based on our parent assignment, our background is based on agriculture. You know, there can be projects that could be based on financial technology. It could be projects that um could be based on telecommunications. So different background for different projects. So if the first thing you want to do in your case study is that you want to kind of make a very brief, you don't have to be so lengthy. Just make a very brief introduction of um what your project is about, the background of your project. You can even state your role. What was your role in this project? You can say that during this project, I was focused on researching or asking user or conducting an interview, or my role was to make a prototype of our final designs because I worked in a team of this. So also your background, you could also have that you 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 have a team of 5, and then with 1 project managers and 4 developers, and they are the only designer. So that's like you are giving like a background knowledge to whoever that wants to read your case study of what they are actually going to see in the long run. So you want to give like a very brief introduction of, just like for every essay. The first paragraph is always the introduction of the entire essay. That is what this background is intended to do. So the second component is the process. It doesn't have to be just one background. You will have to identify your processes. Like I said, your design must be a product of a process. So you don't want to just start designing something. You must have gone through a research, must have gone through ideation, must have even gone through some design decisions. So you would want to kind of say, okay, based on this research, and then we identify these problems, we decide that this is what we are going to solve. And then that's the process. So when you have identified this process, you have stated your case. That is actually say, like, is a case. You are trying to convince your reader that this case that I have, I've identified this problem, and then I have, to the best of my knowledge, I have the solution. And then you now show your final design based on this problem that I've identified. This is what my design is trying to solve this problem, and you state how it has solved this problem. And even if there are cases where there were iterations, maybe you have like first iteration, second iteration, you can also state that you went through iteration, like you did um you did some usability testing on your intended users, and then you identified these problems, and you came back to your design and incorporated these problems. So this is like stating all your process. You don't want to leave any stone unturned in your process, because every detail you state in your case study would help you to get that dream job of yours, or that dream internship role of yours. And the best way for any employer to know how you reason as a designer is to see your case studies or to see your portfolios. And that is why it's very essential for us to actually have portfolios to show what we've um actually done. So I'll show us an example of a template. Like, it's not, there is no, like I said, in design, there's no straight road in this design journey. we just learn design principles, or we learn design norms to know the the regulation of what you're supposed to do. But it does not mean that you are confined in following these particular um rules. So I have a template. I got this template from, you can see the title, Google UX Design. When I was starting my design journey, my design career a few years ago. So I did a course, and then this is my template, the Google UX Design course, and this is my template that you can use for a case study. But a few years ago, most people will always request for your portfolio to be in PDF. But now, not all companies request for portfolios to be in PDF. They can request for, most times it's websites. In fact, if I'm applying for a job and then I'm seeing a company requesting for PDF, like I'm always very annoyed, because websites is just what most people use these days. But then, since you are still starting, you can leverage on PDF. When you see, drop your website link or drop your portfolio link, on this your PDF, there's this share stuff. You can create a link from your PDF and then share, click, like, paste on that website link. For as beginners, you must not have a website, to be very honest. In fact, you can even have a Figma prototype. But before we get to there, so this is like a template of a case study. So you have your case study title. So the case study title is usually the project title. So for our projects, I would say is like, I don't know if you have a title, but it's around food wastage, like not wasting food. So you could just say food wastage in agriculture, or whatever, food wastage, or as brief as possible, and then you put your name. So this is the background I spoke about. So, like, giving a project overview. So you can name any title you want. So you can give, like, you're trying to give like a description of a like a holistic description of your product. So you can see the products. You can't see my screen, it should be from your network. Insert a few sentences about the app, or insert a few sentences about the app, website, or that product that you design. So just like you are trying to give a very, you know, like a very holistic description of these projects. And then you can state like how long you design this project. You can say it is maybe 2 to 3 weeks, or 1 month, or 2 months. So it's still trying to give like a background of this project. And then if you want to also, put like a preview of your final designs, and just to put some, like, someone wants to anticipate, like they want to actually dig more. So just like making your case study as exciting as possible. So you can put like a few of your finished designs here, just to entice the reader, for them to read more on this your case study. So yeah, this is where you now state the problem. So it could be your problem statements. You could just write your problem statements here, what you're actually trying to solve. So if you are trying to solve two or more project of problems, you itemize the problem in a very simple and understandable manner. You don't have to use complex sentences. Just say, I am trying to solve food wastage for farmers and restaurant owners, or I am trying to connect people all over the world as easily as possible. Just say your problem in a very brief manner, and then the goal. So just like we have problem statements, we also have goal statements. I didn't usually um I I did not explain the goal statement. So the goal statement is just like, what is this project trying, like the way we have mission statements for every company. So what is the end, what's the end deliverable? What's the final output? What do you intend to make out of this project? So that is your goal, your final goal. So you write, okay, this is the goal. I want this app to be able to um, help restaurant owners to order for food easily. So that is just your goal. You want to um, try to streamline or try to remove the stress of ordering food, or they are trying to reduce the rate at which food is being wasted. These are different goal statements you could just write here. Then the next one is my role. So I speak about this role. So you see, like, just in this background, we have like a few number of slides. We have like 3 slides, just focusing on the background aspect. So for this next one, you also want to write my role. So you can say that I was a design intern for this project, or I was a UI writer. My role was just to write, just to give content. My role was just to research. I was just researching. My role, that's just my role. And then you want to also state your responsibilities. So you are trying to be clear as possible based on your role. Say, for example, your role was a UX researcher. So what did you actually do as a UX researcher? I performed some interviews with some users. I did some empathy mapping. I did some quantitative analysis. So these are you are trying to actually itemize. Okay, these are your responsibilities that you did for this project. So it's very essential so that whoever you are trying to work with, you know that okay, you have these skills, and then you are able to do this. You have a knowledge, you have an experience of what they're actually looking for. So that's the essence of actually itemizing or bringing out your responsibilities. So the next screen is now, we are now going into the process. So you are done with, um, showcasing the background, or you are done with explaining what the background is. So you want to now start the process. And then this process, this is like you are trying to tell the user this is what you are going to see in this my process. So for the understanding the user, I did a user research, I did a persona, I need a problem statement, I need a journey map. So from these different itineraries you have here, you have to now go through each of them. So if your own project you didn't do all these things, maybe you did something else, like maybe you didn't do a persona, you just did empathy map. You could just write user research, empathy map, problem statement. So whatever you have done, you just outline what you have done in your project. Then for this user research, now this next slide. So this slide is just you are trying to give a summary of what this user research was about. So you want to explain, okay, our research is based on trying to understand why people actually waste food, why they waste more of this food against this food, or why they waste yam more than rice, or why it is difficult for them to actually transport their goods. So that is what your research is based on. They are trying to give like a very short description of what this research is on. So from this research, you must identify pain points. So you would want to itemize your pain points that you must identify. So it could be more than this. It could be just bits. If it like, even if it's two, you just put it your two pain points. It does not have to be this pattern or this way of design. You can use your own way of designing. So if there are two, if there are three, however amount of pain points you have identified, you want to also itemize it. So the next one is your persona. And then just beside it, you have your problem statement. Just like the way I've actually explained the project statement, the what, the who, and why. So you follow the same framework. What username is a user characteristic. So these are the like this username is the what. So you can say, like for persona, we use fictional personalities. So you can say you have a persona of Mary, for example. It might not actually be Mary that yeah that is like is an actual human being. It could just be a fictional person. So you can say Mary is a restaurant owner. That's the characteristics. That characteristics. Mary is a restaurant owner who needs what? Who needs maybe who needs let me say um
nǹkan tí wàá ní èrò ta ló ní blender ọgbọ́n yìí. ọ̀rẹ́ mi ló ní mo ti tó padà.
so you can say Mary is a restaurant owner who needs a transportation means or a easy transportation of her goods because she doesn't want them to waste in her restaurant or however the problem statement is. So you want to always start with um who, what, and why. Then for just this right place, you also have your persona. So I also showed you guys, how you can create persona either from your feed jam or from your mirror, however you want to create it. So you could just copy it and paste it here, or you could use this already template that is here. So you could put like the characteristics of this person, of the person that you're trying to create, like your persona. You put the age, education, hometown. Imagine with this things, you could put whatever you want to put, and then you put their frustrations and their goals. So this is like a template of persona you could use, or you could streamline to fit what you're actually producing. So same goes with your user journey map. So maybe you must have done a user journey map in your mirror or your picture. You just copy that picture and paste here, and then you can put one or two notes or your thoughts on this place. So the next step is now to start your design. So you have done trying to understand your users. So you now want to start designing. You've gotten your problem, you now want to start solving this problem. So how do you want to start? Did you start with your paper wire frames, then you move to digital, then you move to low fidelity, then you move to usability testing? However your process is, you just want to just outline every single process that you took all through your journey. And if there are cases where maybe you didn't take any of these, just write down the one that you've taken. So for paper wireframes, you could paste the picture of the wireframes, even if they're in different flows, you could paste it. Then for digital wireframes also, you could also paste and then you write different type of descriptions. So this is for digital wireframes. Then for low fidelity also, I explain what low fidelity wireframes is. The low fidelity prototype is it's like a black and white design that we showed. So this is like a prototype, and it could be like a flow, and with different flows. When you prototype, there are instances like what we usually did was to prototype our final design, but there are instances where you prototype your wire frames. Those are like your low fidelity prototype. Then if you also conducted usability testing, like you did maybe like an A/B testing where you have different versions of your design, or you just and conducted, like you call your intended users, and then like you want to test if they could actually complete any tasks effectively without any problem. So you want to also conduct that usability testing. So from that usability testing, you must have found out different things, that this user was not able to identify this button because of this. So these are different findings. Then when you are done with that, from your findings, you now want to redefine your design. So your final designs. And then there's a process. You could use your mockups, your high fidelity prototype, and your accessibility. So for your mockups, so mockups is just your final design. You could mockups, and we will also call mockups like when you have like your screenshots in a phone screen. I don't know if I can, but you can also still use your mockups exactly just like the way this design is. This is like a mockup, like when you have a design on a device, either on the laptop screen or on a phone screen. But however, you can still just paste your final designs on the screen, and then it's still good to go. So you have to paste as much final designs as possible. If you want to put it into flows or however you want to put it, so that they can get a proper insights of what your mockup is, and then you move into your high fidelity prototype. So it's just the same way, the same process of low fidelity prototype and high fidelity prototype, like prototyping the final designs of your application. Then if you must have considered some things, like I changed the color of this button because I noticed that it's not noticeable. So these are different considerations you must have done. Or I actually designed a dark version of my product because I'm designing for Gen Zs. So these are different accessibility considerations you must have done your design. So you want to also itemize them. Then, like I said, from your um from your case study, you must have learned a few things, or you must have a next step. Like you must say that, okay, we have done with iteration 1, but for iteration 2, these are the things that we want to design for iteration 2. Or you can just simply state what you've learned from this project. So that will fall under your takeaways. So you can say your impact. This project impacted me in my research skill. I was able to communicate more with my users. I was able to conduct more user research because of this project. So these are different impacts that a particular case study must have impacted in you positively, I hope, and what you've learned from this project. So you could just itemize it. Then based on your next step, you could say that we have identified this to be our next iteration. So you could come in iteration 2 or iteration 3, but moving forward, we will want to also design these features for our next steps. But this next step is not always compulsory, and any of these things are not always compulsory. So you can pick in what you want to put in your case study and remove whatever you want to remove in your case studies. So this one, like I said, this is just like a template. But templates, you don't have to use every single thing. You can work with what suits your project. So you can also end with, okay, let's connect. This is me. I'm a product designer with over 2 years experience. You can contact me on this, blah, blah, blah. And then thank you. This is like a very simple case study example of like a very simple template of how you can present your case studies. And then in situations where you have like multiple projects, like you have like 2 case studies or 3 case studies, you can have a single, like you can have a single PDF, but then you have 3 projects. So you can start with project 1. So you have your project 1, you have all your whole process of projects, and then you end project 1. Then your next slide, you start project 2. So you go on with the project 2, and then you end project 2. Then when you end project 2, you next time you go on with project 3. So that is how you can actually have as many case studies as possible in a particular PDF. Like I said, in cases where they're asking for link, you can see this share, um, picture. You can put it on anyone with the link, and then you copy the link, and then you post as. You can name this thing as your name. You can put your name there, write portfolio. It will be Jacinta Challenger's portfolio. So wherever you are sending it to, once you open it, they see your portfolio. So in what did I want to say? In like I said, there are various ways of showing portfolios. You can show it from a PDF, but what most people use now is websites. But then if you don't have the resources, or if you don't have the ability, like if you don't have the opportunity to have a website, don't kill yourself over it. Just make use of what you have. People will always come for you when they see what they need from you. So like I think some people also use a Figma link in the portfolio, like the way you have prototypes, like the way we were able to link different screens on our prototype, and then the way we were able to link different screens on our prototype, and then you can actually just share that link, or there's even you can buy a domain, or you can shorten this link. So if you don't want to go through this PDF method, another effective way of also doing it is that you go to your Figma, and then you design your portfolio, and then you link the pages. You link the different pages of your portfolio, and when you link it, you can now share it. But that was even what I was using until I was opportune to have a website of my own. So I think this was like, I was always sharing this link to people that was applying jobs to. So this was like, I just copied this link, and then I bought a domain of my name, like Jacinta Challenger. I just put this link, and then so I'm just telling you guys this process so that when you want to start applying for jobs as designers, when you are, maybe by that time, like it might be months from now, when you're now interacting with other design, and then they are telling you these things, you just remember, what I've said today. Or so you could actually still share this link, just like the way you have shared it. I just share this link as your website link. Wherever you see share your portfolio link, or share your website, or whatever, just share this link after you have designed your portfolio on Figma. So you could just share the link, and then why is it not clicking? So this is like the landing page of my portfolio. I don't know why it's not clicking. This is just like a complete clicking of my editor. I think everything I've scattered. But you guys already have an idea of what I'm trying to say. So this is like But I wanted to show you guys like a case study, one of my case studies. So when you are creating your own, you can um you can know how to get your case studies. You can know how to go about your case studies, but then you can always watch YouTube videos or read articles on how to create case studies. But then just know that you are creating like a process, a design process. That process that you must have gone through, just like you're writing an article. This one is clicking. So like I said, like you could just create like a clickable Figma link. So the way I have this, my landing page here as my design, as my portfolio, you could just have your own, and then you have your own landing page. And then you have the list of the projects that you've worked on. You just have like a screenshot of the project that you've worked on. You could make like simple projects. So this is like a mock-up, what I was saying. So you could just make like a simple screenshots of all the projects that you've worked on. And so this is like, I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 9 projects I've worked on. But then even if you have just 2, just fly with your 2, and then you have it on your landing page. So when they click on any of these products or your case study, you can. So this is like a one of my case. I'm not going to show you guys only one. So you can see the very title, like it's still following the same format. The very first one that you saw, case study title. So this is already showing you the title of the project that I did. And then you can see on this place, they said preview of the selected polished designs. So I kind of gave a preview of the design that I have done. So it's like you are trying to entice them of like this is the final input. Do you want to dig more to know how I got this final input? Then you now want to now go into the background. So like I said, this is like my introduction, a summary of what this project is about. This is my role. My role was as the only product designer of this project. As my responsibilities include working with stakeholders, blah blah blah. So you want to say to your who, your outcome, your client, who your client was, or if you're working in a company, the scope, the tools that you use. So this is like you are giving like a brief introduction of this project. However, you don't have to use the same format. You can use any format. Like this format here was the product duration, problems, goal or something. So however format you want to use, very so is your goal is just you are trying to give a background of this project. So when you are done with this project, so now I kind of this place was um trying to show the different flows I did. So like I said, my approach is actually designing with user flows. So the first flow is the design access to vein reports. So this is like my first flow, and I have different designs for it. So you can see I also even show my different iterations, second iteration, to show that this design actually went through different iterations. So I just kind of show like different screenshots of this particular product. And then the second one is creating a persona for this product. This is like who this product is intended for. They're intended for vehicle owners and intended for auto technicians. This is like trying to create the problem statements of this is my problem of this project, and then I itemize this my problem statements here, and then I see the users, and then I said the problem I was trying to solve. So these are two distinct yet interacted goals. So these are my goals, just like we mentioned there. So your goal, you state your problem, you state your goal, And then how do you now come about with these solutions? So this like different on this place, on this section, defining and prioritizing solutions, how do I now come up with my solution? So I kind of make sure that my user needs are completed by, this is like I think this is a user a a journey map, a user journey map where I have the situation, motivation, and the outcome. Then from my whole empathizing stage, this is now the feature, this is now my solution. So first of all, I've successfully like state the intended users I am actually designing for. And then at this point, I'm now stating my solutions. So some of my key solution goals, so these are my solutions I've come out with based on this problem that I have itemized. Then you can also see my pain point, solution, and my findings. Then on this page, I now created a user flow. This is like the user flow based on this problem. So you can see how the whole process, and you can see that it's not entirely the same with what you have on this template. So I'm just following this template because of this. This was what I did for me to actually come up with this design, and then I now come to my final outcome. So I now display what I actually like the final design, my final design, and now display it, and then I now come to my impact. So how did this project actually impacted me? And then I itemized it. So you can see in this particular project, there were no next steps. I only have impact. I didn't have next steps. You can see for different projects, is not, you don't have to follow a particular pattern. You could just follow any pattern you like. So I don't have to show you guys all of this. I'm not marketing myself to you people. I'm just so you guys kind of understand how to create your case studies, because in case if you need to create one after you are done with your TEFEM classes, you may want to always create one, and you can use this simple PDF you have here, or you can use your Figma. Just go to the search on portfolio design. Some even use Canva, I think. Some people use Canva, but I don't even know how to do it. So whatever platform, you can even use any website. You can. There are so many website builders you have. You don't even have to design from scratch. You can just go to any website builder, and then you can design your portfolio. So with this, I've come to the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions? No, actually, that's it for me.
Hi, good evening, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go on.
Okay. Please, I want to ask, um, is it necessary that we do a competitive analysis when coming up with ideas for our design? I'm trying to know what is existing before with our own designs.
No, it's not compulsory.
Okay. What about the
But
crazy?
it's not like all those processes. They are not like, you don't have to use everything. Like I said, you can decide to use a particular project, a particular how would I say, a particular framework for one project and not use it for another project. So like it's not a must you must use all this in one project.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. The other person raised their hand. Who again? You can unmute and speak. Someone else raised their hand. I feel I saw two persons. Do you have any other questions? We don't have any questions. So we understood the whole case study. Give me the one again, Munachi, or the one you raised before.
No, I have a question to ask.
Okay.
Okay. Well, in doing creating your portfolio, like um the one you showed us right now, your own portfolio, you kind of used Figma to create it. Then I don't know. What if um the company you're applying for don't want a for your to portfolio?
No, there,
How would you go about it in order to apply for the job?
no, there's no company that will tell you that
Sorry, do you get my
if
question?
they don't. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
So
hear you.
like there's no company that will tell you that they don't need a Figma file. They can only tell you if they want a link or a PDF. That's the only constraint that they have. And to be very honest, nobody cares whether you use a website, but
Mm,
it just gives you like a kind of a an edge in the market. So even if you use a PDF, you can get jobs, internship with that PDF. And if you want to use your
okay.
Figma link, I've seen people that actually use Figma link and then they have gotten senior design roles, lead design roles, like in very big companies, even international companies. They don't really care
Mm,
um, where you use, so that is Figma on your website or whatever website. What they are concerned is your design process. How were you able to come up with this design? Your thought process. That is what they are really concerned about. As long as what you are giving is presentable, like is okay, is okay design wise. They don't really care the platform that you are using.
okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So do you have any other questions? Is it only me that I have a question here? I think this topic was very self-explanatory.